What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Memory Lane Unscripted, part interview series, part video game nostalgia trip. Memory Lane Unscripted is an offshoot series of the video essay series of the similar name, where I discuss some cool games with some even cooler people. New episodes once every last Sunday of the month by going over to youtube.com/ShakaMcPain, as well as Google Podcast by searching Memory Lane Unscripted. I am your host, Nick Blaine, aka Shaka McPain, and joining me today, the smoothest voice in the business, face of Kinda Funny Michigan, and the Lure King himself, Alec Bobko. Alec, how you doing?
Doing great today. Lions got a great win, last second win, so I am doing fantastic.
I love it. Yeah, we talked about it before the podcast, but I think that like my friend was like, I passed by him when he was watching the Lions game, and there was like, I think they were at 7-13, and I'm not a sports guy, but every time it's just like, man, the Lions are lying again. I can't believe this is where we're at.
Every week.
So yeah, but sports is not why we're here, unfortunately.
Exactly.
As much as my dumb brain would like to talk to you about sports, we have another thing on our agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Alec, can you tell me a bit about yourself?
So I am, another kind of funny best friend from Michigan. I got into gaming at a pretty young age. Just I don't remember the exact age, but I know I had an NES, I had a PS1, so kind of around that generation. Grew up and basically was a Nintendo kid for the most part until I got a PS3 in high school. And yeah, kind of stuck with PlayStation, dabbled in a little bit of Xbox. I got like a pre-owned one from GameStop for a little bit, just so I could play Halo or the Halo games. Yeah, I'm a Twitch streamer, recent podcast co-host, and yeah, then just dipping my toes in the content creation game starting this year. So
yeah, you've been, I mean, like, to see you go, like, I remember like seeing you go from just like streaming and just having like just enjoying yourself on stream to actually like almost not, I don't want to say building an empire because that makes you sound like a villain, but like building like this community, and then also reaching out to other content creators like Assemble, like Chris Lepak, Rumble Pack, and seeing that you kind of branching out into different things. And also I think that's something that's really cool is the fact that your mental health charity streams I think are really cool, and something that I would love to do, but I just don't have. Obviously we're recording this like the day of that this needs to post. So I'm not exactly the most on top of things guy, but yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing over at Waypoint?
Yeah, so it's a group of 6 content creators where we're coming together to discuss things like just anything about content creation, so the behind the scenes of how things are made, the analytics of it all, and then we're also there to discuss all of our interests. So like for me, video games, tech, maybe a couple of us, I don't know how many of us are into sports, but that could be a thing. But then also movies, TV, basically anything under the sun that we want to make content about, because like I said, there's 6 of us, so anytime we can get 2 or 3 of us together to make a video or a small podcast or something, it's literally just anything under the sun.
I love it. I love just seeing people that are just killing the game right now getting together. And of course, the first, I don't know if you guys posted it as well on your guys' channel, but the first guy I saw post about it was Assemble, and Matt is his name, right?
Matt. Yep.
Okay. I always forget because everybody just is in my brain at all times.
As their username.
So it's just like I'm messing up names. Anyways, it's funny. It's funny enough that Matt like seemed to have formed this like Assemble, at least from that perspective, where it's just like the Avengers Assemble moment for you guys, for content creators, and that's really cool.
It was actually Austin who's in the group. He kind of actually put the
Really?
word out to all of us. Yeah, he's the one
Nice.
that kind of, like we said in the episode, our first episode up on YouTube. Search Waypoint Podcast. Look for the purple Waypoint pin.
There you go. I love the plug-in. You got to plug.
Yeah. Yep. He's kind of the Nick Fury of it all. He kind of just put
that's
the DM group together and asked us if we wanted to, and we're like, oh hell yeah, this sounds awesome.
nice. Yeah,
And that's where the Waypoint came from, is that just the way he described it, kind of all of us coming together for our common interests and all that, coming to a common point. It's like, oh, Waypoint. Boom.
Well, it's funny, like, so I hadn't, like, when you messaged me, I hadn't seen the announcement video. Mm-hmm. So, and because I've been like so busy this weekend and I haven't even gone like on Twitter or anything. And like I posted a few things, but it's just like I haven't had a nice sit down. I mean, sit down with Twitter, everything's on fire, you know, that sort of week. When you told me like I have the Waypoint podcast to record, I'm like, you're gonna be on Vice? I was like, what?
Yeah, no, that's
funny.
That's something that we definitely knew that it was going to be a struggle to get our point out there, but that's, you know, we feel like we're coming at it from a very unique angle.
Yeah.
And we're ready for that battle.
I like it. Well, Alec, I love talking about content creation, obviously, but here today we are here for something grander, something that brought us to the content creation point that we're at, something that brought us to video games in general. Alec, what is that game for you?
That game is Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. And for me, that is the game that turned video games from just kind of a hobby of mine that I did, you know, an hour or so a day, you know, a couple days a week, to a passion. That is the game that showed me that video games can have a story. They can be more than just Mario jumping on Goombas and Koopas and all that, you know? It's showed me that there's more to video games than just a fun little thing. That they can actually mean something to people.
Yeah, I definitely I've said this before, but I think that I have a very similar thing with Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts definitely was this is more than just, like you said, more than just Mario, more than just like the simple, I'm just gonna play this game to play this game.
Yep.
Where Kingdom Hearts 2 was the elevated point of that, where I was just like, oh, this means everything to me, and to this day it's still my favorite game of all time. And I think that it's probably for a similar reason as Twilight Princess is for you, because I think that as someone who, you know, obviously I played Twilight Princess a little bit later than in my youth, but it really hits this epic scale, you know, and you're like, this is something special. But tell me a little bit more about what about it really clicks with you.
So it's more of just the memory I have of it, because, you know, I got that with the Wii at launch, and I was helping my dad with a volunteer opportunity at Knights of Columbus breakfast. So my mom was actually the one that had to go stand in line at the Toys R Us to get the Wii, and she was one of the last two people to actually get a ticket to secure the Wii. And this is, you know, a cold Sunday in February in Michigan, so
very cold.
Mom is the MVP. So I just remember getting home from that, and I actually, you know, like I had always done, procrastinated on school project, because this is like 6th, 7th grade, I want to say. That I, you know, told me I couldn't play the Wii until I got that project done. So I kind of shut myself in my room and just went to town on it. And, you know, next thing I knew, I was playing Twilight Princess on the Wii. You know, didn't even think about Wii Sports, because I'm like, the weirdest thing, I wasn't even into, or not, I was like, what into, but I didn't know what a Zelda game was. Like, I had Adventure of Link on the NES, but I think it was just something like that Wolf Link, you know, all the promo art with Wolf Link in it that I just loved. And I proceeded to have my first long gaming session. I think about like 6 to 7 hours where I just played that game straight. And every time my parents would come, because we had the Wii in our basement, kind of like in our little pseudo man cave at the time. And next thing I know, 6, 7 hours went by, and it is 7 o'clock at night. And yeah, there's like, hey, you should probably eat some dinner.
Yeah, you should probably see the sun for a second. Just for a second. Yeah. I mean, maybe you could drink some Sunny D, and that'll give you your vitamins. Yeah,
it's more that it's just so associated with that memory for me that makes it so special to me.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny than looking at it now. It's just like I played Persona 5 for like 12 hours straight one night.
Yep.
And I'm just like, oh, I don't know whether to be proud of myself or ashamed.
Yeah.
Where it's I played Skyrim for 300 hours, and then I talk to people, and then they're like, yeah, I've played Destiny for 700 days straight. And it's like, well, that was just a joke.
Oh yeah,
number,
yeah, no,
but it feels like that, where it's like I do nothing. I'm like, how do you have a job? How do you maintain a life with that much Destiny? But at the same time, it's almost like a badge of honor where you're just like, yeah, yep. I really, it's an interesting balance.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that what's so cool when you get in, like, especially at a young age, at a developmental age, where you get so into a game, especially I don't know about you, but like there wasn't a whole lot of people that I was like deep friends with, and so I think that for me, those characters were extensions of myself, and I related to the characters, and I think that it gave me more meaning in life. And I was very much an existentialist as a kid, so I think that at any time a piece of media asks like, what are we doing here, like who are you as a person, I'm like, oh dude, let's go, I'm all ready. So is there anything in the story of Zelda, Twilight Princess in particular, or is it just the overall epic scale?
I think it was more just the epic scale of it. Like how you went all, like how big Hyrule was for a Wii game. Like it was just that there's so many different regions. Like, I mean, granted, I know now that that's just what Zelda was.
Right.
But just seeing all that, like you got the Ordon Plains with the, the farm there. Then you got Faron Woods with all the crazy like monkeys and spiders and all that.
Well, it's all, I think what's it does so well, and I like Wind Waker is my favorite Zelda game, but I think something that it doesn't do very well is make things feel different. And I think what Twilight Princess does so well with its gameplay is make each encounter feel different, make each temple feels distinctly its own. Each area feels distinctly its own.
Yeah.
And especially when you get the mix of that and then the Twilight, I almost said the Twilight Zone, kind of like, what is it?
I think it is the Twilight Zone.
Is it the Twilight Zone? I was just like, I don't know. I don't think that's right, but
Twilight
yeah, I think that especially for a kid, when you get into like the darker themes, it really challenges. Oh, this is happening. Like this is not just a hey, Mario has to go save the princess again. It's like, oh no, Link, it has to save the entirety of the world / like galaxy of Hyrule. I don't know, Super Hyrule Galaxy. Yeah. But I think that it brings it less of a, hey, this is just something you have to do, to a, oh, if you don't do this, it's the end of everything. Yeah. And I think that's something that really, honestly, around that time, I think that there was a lot of things that tackled that were traditionally more kids focused. I mean, Kingdom Hearts 2, one that came out just around the same time, was kind of that, where there was like this unending threat that was happening, and like the darker, the more emo side of things came in, crept in.
For sure.
Um, the
So
so
yeah,
do you have any more specific memories with Twilight Princess that you would like to share?
yeah. I mean, just a couple that come to mind. Well, it's the whole moment of the game with like Midna's lament, where that's playing, where she is just basically dead at
Mm-hmm.
that point, and you're just carrying her on your back, and you just basically run into that bar area and just like, please help, like go back to Zelda. No, it was actually, you go back to Zelda,
Mm-hmm.
and she like uses the last of her powers to basically bring her back, and then Midna's just like, no, 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 don't do this, like don't waste your life on me, you're needed way more than I am,
Right.
kind of a thing. And it's like, just the emotion of that all, like it's just, I mean, even just recalling it like that is kind of getting to me, like.
Right. Right.
And
Well,
then
I think that like I don't know about Twilight Princess for you, but I remember I feel like Kingdom Hearts and Twilight Princess, Kingdom Hearts 2 and Twilight Princess are very similar
mhm.
games that just came out in the same year, so that's why I'm going to use them as a comparison.
Oh
But
no, go
I
ahead,
know
yeah.
for me, like Kingdom Hearts 2 was the first time I cried at a video game and was like, "Oh, this is resonating with me in a way that I didn't even know that it was."
Hmm.
Where I had an emotional weight to what was going on in the story. And as somebody, like, I think, what was I? I think I was
Hmm.
11 when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out. And as somebody, as a kid who wasn't like, didn't have pent up emotions, but also didn't really know how to deal with that sort of feeling, it was overwhelming how sad yet happy yet like every
Yep,
every every
for sure.
emotion in the book you get with those games at that formative age. Was there a moment for you besides the one you just said that really like cracked you, I guess is the best word?
Mm, I mean, I can't really think of any off the top of my
Mm-hmm.
head. I mean, I feel like it's almost got to be actually, um not necessarily emotionally, but just kind of like blew my mind, was Zant and Ganondorf. Like that
Yep.
whole meeting. Like, wait, Ganon's like this god in the Twilight realm. That's it, Twilight realm. Boom.
Twilight Realm,
Um,
there you go. I was like, Twilight Zone
um,
doesn't feel right, but also I haven't played Twilight Princess
mhm.
since the Wii U, so
Right, yeah. Um, but yeah, that whole scene of just Zant just basically giving up on life, and then he just looks up and sees Ganon. Like, that was just crazy. And then obviously the ending of that game where you see Midna's not a little imp.
yep.
Like, like what?
Yep. Yep.
um, yeah. So yeah, nothing necessarily like emotionally
Mm-hmm.
broke me that I can recall.
Yeah.
One
I
actually, another moment that I said maybe brought me close was with the Yeti
mhm.
wife, and them like seeing basically that
Yeah.
whole story over that temple.
And
That was just insane.
I
Like,
I think that there's a lot of, especially nowadays, where there's a lot of
mhm,
side quests that resonate with you more than the actual game does.
mhm.
In terms of like emotional connection, because it's such an
Oh
intimate
yeah.
story. I think that the like going from like to earlier this year we had Last of Us Part 2, and while I really
Mhm.
loved that game, I think that I enjoy Last of Us Part 1 much more because it is that intimate stories, and I think that
Yeah.
side quests have that opportunity to just be that intimate story in this vast open
Mhm.
section. This open quest line, I guess, is probably a better word for it.
Yeah.
um yeah, that the Yeti part is definitely well, and then the opposite, I'm just gonna riff off here, but the
Oh,
opposite
go ahead. Go ahead.
is in, and that's not a side quest, but in Mario 64, I'm a heartless bastard because I'm taking those penguins and I am throwing them off the edge. They annoyed me. They are getting away. I will not.
Mhm.
Um, just the creativeness of that gameplay. I'm just like, oh,
Oh yeah.
I can kill this penguin. I'm a psychopath. I'm realizing now I am a psychopath. Yeah, I like I said, like I think that as somebody who the Majora's Mask was my first Zelda. So it was quite the interesting step into the franchise. Obviously, as a kid, I did not really care about the fact that, hey, like, you have to do this within 3 days. So I didn't really get into Zelda until I think Minish Cap. Minish Cap was my first one where I was just like, this is it. This is what I want from a Zelda game. And I think that's why the 2D Zeldas so resonate with me. But yeah, playing Twilight Princess years later and my friend showing me it and be like, oh, this is really cool. This art style is really cool. This story is really cool. But then going back and playing Wind Waker, I'm like, this is just my jam. This is my everything. This is everything I want a Zelda game to be. And on top of that, I know this is blasphemy, but I think when they went to Breath of the Wild, where sure, much more creative gameplay, much more creative art style. I think that it lost some of its luster for me because I feel like, to me, it doesn't have a distinct feel to it in the same way that other Zeldas do. And I know I'm going to get a ton of hate for that. I heard when I was on the game chat last week. I definitely was like, listen, it's an overrated game. I love it. It's really good. I think the gameplay stuff, I think it's part of the reason is I'm just stupid. I do not know how to do. I look at all these things on Twitter where they're like, I'm gonna do a quarter circle backflip, and then I'm also gonna stop my axe in time and have it land on the sky while shooting the bow. I'm like, no, I don't. I can't do that.
Way too complex.
But that stuff, I'm like, oh, this game is awesome. I'm gonna go try check it out. And then when I play it, it's just like, all right, so you're walking through a forest. You see a piece of grass. You see a moblin. They attack you. You die. You know. Yeah, whereas, I think like with Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, especially, is they give you more distinct things to do. And I am stupid, and I need to be told what to do in a video game, directed in a place. Right, yep. And I think that's why I don't like Breath of the Wild that much. But so now going back, did you go, like, I'm assuming you went back and played the other games of Zelda. Is Twilight Princess still your favorite?
No. I actually have a ranking on GG, so I gotta quick
pull it out. GG
real quick.
Followed me the other day, and I'm like, oh, I feel like a celebrity. Like GG, exactly. I feel like is like it's Letterboxd of games. If you don't know, GG Letterboxd of games, not sponsored by this podcast at all. But if you want to sponsor us, right here. This very procrastinating bastard would love to be sponsored. But yeah, he followed me the other day, or the account followed me the other day.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh man, it's such a great app,
It really
Anyways,
is. Like,
rankings of the Zelda.
Yeah. So, I actually didn't go back and play some of the N64 ones just because I didn't have an N64 and I didn't buy the Wind Waker, the master collection of all the Zeldas and all that. So I really still haven't gone back and played much of them. I've dabbled in them with the 3DS a little bit, but not to the entirety where I've actually played through the entire thing and beaten them. So with that caveat, this is my list.
I like it.
Breath of the Wild number 1.
Okay.
Twilight Princess number 2. Wind Waker HD 3. Skyward Sword 4. Ocarina 5. I got Link to the Past 6. Link Between Worlds 7. Majora's Mask 8. Awakening 9. The original Legend of Zelda at 10. And then Adventure Link at 11.
Man, the 3DS Why? I would like Between Worlds is way too low.
Yeah, like I said, it's
No.
more because
You do you though. You do you.
yeah, no. Skyward Sword is. I mean, that could be a whole nother podcast of Skyward Sword because that game gets way too much hate.
Yeah, well,
The
tell me about
music
it.
in
We're
it-
here. We're here, dude. Tell me
Okay.
about it.
So-
Let's go.
The music, for one thing, it is the best in the series. Like that was the first game that they got the orchestra to actually perform in that.
Mhm.
Then, for one thing, or this is the game where they actually made Zelda a character in the game, not just a damsel in distress. Like the relationship between her and Link is one of my favorites in games, in that game specifically. Then there's just, I mean, I know there's all the motion controls, there's the backtracking, but the locations in that game, were even more varied than Twilight Princess. And just some of the items in that too, like the beetle, you had that one, you had the whip, which was cool. Like that boss fight with the whip was so much fun. Where you got to like take his swords and just basically just destroy him with his own weapons and all that. But then the coolest part because everybody hated Fee. Everybody hates Fee. But at the end of the game, the way they make you just feel for Fee, like how she's like, I'll be waiting for you.
Like they didn't do that with Navi.
No, not at all. It's like I just think Skyward Sword gets way too much crap because of the motion controls. And whenever Nintendo, I am pleading Nintendo, make a Skyward Sword HD without motion controls.
I was gonna say
people will love that game.
Would you prefer them to keep the motion controls in and keep it pure, or the remove
Get rid of them. Get rid of them.
Okay.
Because then it'll be a perfect game and people will love it.
Yeah, I think that was a huge barrier to entry with me. Obviously, like I missed a lot of the Wii generation. My brother had a Wii. And side note, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, but side note, my brother, a selfish bastard at the time at the Wii, and like one Dragon Ball Z, he would take every piece of the Wii and scatter it across the house. So we'd have to find all the pieces of the Wii if we wanted to play it before he came home. He was an asshole. But back to my story of the Wii. So my brother, or my cousin, also had a Wii, and it was much less trying to keep away the Wii from us. So we played the Wii, and I remember when he got Skyward Sword, I played like an hour of it, and I really enjoyed it. And I think the thing that people don't talk about a whole lot, especially, I mean, people don't talk about Skyward Sword in general, but I think what's so great in that game is how they blend the styles of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. It feels like a nice mesh of both. And I think the other thing, I mean, the thing that's
great,
phenomenal, like you said, is that orchestra. I remember when my friend bought that game and bought the CD, he was like, "Here, rip this CD," and that I would just listen to that while I was playing games. Like it's so good. And I think that the story wise about that game, the fact that it is the beginning of the Zelda timeline canonically, I think there's so much interesting you can do with that. Again, I haven't really played through it all myself, but I am looking forward to that eventual day. I remember I was listening to the Up and Comers podcast that you were on with Josh Biddick. Just was it 2 weeks ago? Time is a flat circle.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
And I think it was 2 weeks ago. Anyways, it's over there.
Whatever.
Go check it out.
Yeah.
Josh is amazing. Alex amazing. All that.
We love Josh. We stand Josh here.
But when you were describing your reveal of the Zelda GameCube Wii collection,
just the Zelda collection.
Yeah, like I was just like, oh yes, give it to me. I want it. First off, I want my favorite Zelda game of all time on the Switch, which is Wind Waker. But also, I want to be able. It was the same way, the same reason. Just do the same thing you did with Well, please do a little bit better. I mean, not that it's bad or anything. In fact, it's very good. But please do better than 3D All Stars. Like, let's get a little bit more time in and actual.
I mean, honestly, they were great. Just at least Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, just port them over.
I mean, those definitely just port over. Like, there's no
just port those over.
There is no. You could. I mean, honestly, I don't want to put this out into the ether, but you could probably sell them each for $60, and I would buy them all.
Oh yeah, same.
Don't do that, Nintendo.
Yeah.
Don't do that, Nintendo.
Don't.
However, if they did, I would be forced. And also don't do that shit where you're like, oh, it's up until March 2021. Anyways, I think that
March of April 1st.
Yeah, the idea of all that where they're like, so we're gonna pull it off. It much reminds me of when like a superhero dies in a superhero comic or film or whatnot, and you're just like, I know you're coming back. Like unless like the actor's dead or something like that, then I'm like, I know you're coming back, you know. But
or like the Disney Vault.
Yeah, right. But I think that would be such a hype announcement, and I think especially because I didn't play like Sunshine or Galaxy in the same way I didn't play not Wind Waker, the Skyward Sword. I did play Wind Waker, and I didn't finish Twilight Princess HD. So going to play Skyward Sword, especially without motion controls, would be amazing. How they would do it, I don't know. Even with motion controls, you can just do it with motion controls. I'd rather you not, but you can just keep it that way. That's fine.
Like the Joy-Cons would actually be better. Like they have so much better motion controls than the Wiimote.
Oh yeah. Well, and then I hope like the tracking would be really nice. But yeah, I think that those there's a reason that Zelda has been around for 30 plus years. I think 35.
I think next year's 35.
Yeah. Or
so
this year?
35 next. No, because
next it's the 87?
Mario was
all right.
86.
86. 87's I think Mega Man. I think. Anyways,
because they were released 1 year after the other, the original Mario and Zelda. So
yeah. I there's a reason that they've been around as long as they have, and have influenced countless games, such as Dark Souls and even like Skyrim. I mean, Elder Scrolls, in general. And I think that openness. I think that now there really are, and like directly just there's clones being made out of them, like Immortals. And which I previewed at Dual Shockers, go and check it out. But the Immortals and Genshin Impact are like being directly impacted by Breath of the Wild. I think that the influence is still very much there, and I think that it's a franchise that we're gonna be loving to come, especially with the Horizon coming out with Breath of the Wild 2. As much as I want that game to be good. I want to love Breath of the Wild so much, and that's why I hate it so much, but I want to love it so much. I feel like I'm just the idiot here. But Alec, do you have anything to say else about Twilight Princess before we get out of here?
Yes. One last thing. The dual claw shots. Best item in Zelda.
Yep. You're Spider-Man.
That whole section in the Sky Temple is just so much fun.
You're basically Spider-Man for a whole temple, and it's amazing.
Exactly.
The best Spider-Man game may have been Spider-Man 2 at that point, but also the secret best Spider-Man game. We all know.
Exactly.
All right.
Plus, we get to fight a dragon.
Yeah. Right.
That was a dope boss battle.
Yeah. Such man, it's understated how great that just I don't want to say trilogy, but it is kind of a trilogy of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. That trilogy of games are just such great art styles, unbelievably great art styles.
Give it to us, Nintendo.
Right.
Give
That's
it
what
to
I'm
us.
saying. We need the collection, Nintendo. Tell us. We need just package it. Like, I know you're having an off year. Just package it together. Give us the ports. You don't have to. I would love if you upresed. If you redid Skyward Sword, but if you just upres it, we'll be fine. We'll be okay.
Exactly.
I just want to play it.
That's actually going to look great upres.
Oh, I know. Well, it's like
art style? Yeah.
The big problem I have with Kingdom Hearts 3 is the art style doesn't feel the same. Where I feel like almost if you kept the PS2 style, it would look better in terms of like Kingdom Hearts. It would fit better. Not look better, obviously.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Kingdom Hearts 3 looks immaculate, but the problem is it looks immaculate, and Kingdom Hearts has looked a certain way for 20 plus 20 years almost. So, anyways, well, we're gonna get out of here. That is another game series. Sometimes we do series, so we're good.
Couple games
under our belt. Alec, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram at albob875. And you can also find me as a co-host on the Waypoint podcast on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram at Waypoint Podcast.
Nice.
And also GG on those same names as well.
Yeah, and tell us about also coinciding with this whole podcast and this talk of nostalgia. Tell us what you're doing over at Twitch right now.
Oh yeah, so right now, month of October typically associated with spooky games and the horror genre. Well, I am not a fan of that genre, so literally like September 29th, I just threw this random idea to the chat, and a couple people really liked it, so I am doing what I call Nostalgia Month. So I started off just playing games from my childhood and formative gaming years. So I started off with Pokemon Silver. Then I went to Crash Bandicoot Warped. Then it was... I can't remember off the top of my head. Gotta pull up the tweet. filling time, and I did not make it my pinned tweet. So, yeah.
You played some games.
Played some games, regardless. But yeah, I played, it was Mega Man X4. Mario Kart Double Dash. It was going to be Mario Kart Toadstool Tour. I played that. And then this upcoming week, so Tuesday, I'm playing Super Smash Bros. Melee. And then it was going to be Thursday, but I think because of how long the tutorial is, I'm going to make it Friday night just so I can play that for a long time. It's going to be Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Yep. But the interesting thing is I played it on the Wii originally, and I've always played it on the Wii. And I'm going to be playing it on GameCube this time around. So everything's going to be mirrored for me. Yeah, so it should be interesting.
We talked about that before the podcast, where I'm just like, man, that's gonna be, because I had an opposite thing where Twilight Princess is a GameCube game to me, and I went from Twilight Princess on the GameCube, and then a few years later, my friend showed me the Wii version, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel right at all, which I'm sure will change for you. But I want to say thank you, Alec, on such short notice for joining me on this podcast. I've been meaning to have you on this podcast for a while now, and I'm sure we'll have you on other podcasts as well. And of course, you can go find me over at this very channel, youtube.com/JockandMcPain, unless you're obviously listening on Google Podcasts by searching Memory Lane Unscripted, as well as twitter.com/ShockandMcPain or at ShockandMcPain. Also on a Facebook, I'm sure. You could find the Shock and McPain page. I don't use it. You're probably not going to want to actually go there. And of course, you can find everything else I do over at youtube.com/DualShockers. We do have some Halloween Let's Plays going up, and it's going to be a fun week. Also, later on, we'll get into some discussions and such. I just did a preview for Immortals Phoenix Rising. I had a great time with that game. I played it for like 4.5 hours. So go check that out over at youtube.com/DualShockers and give it a like if you like what I am doing. And of course, you can go over to Alec's stuff, give him a like. He is a fantastic content creator, and he's doing the Lord's work.
Thank you. Appreciate it. On the road to 200 followers on Twitch, so
nice.
Appreciate it.
I'm watching everybody like go up, and I'm like, man, you guys are killing it. You guys are absolutely killing it. Like watching Joe Medforth go from like 2 followers to 400 plus. Like he's 500 now.
He's almost to 600 now.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. But yeah, I'm just surrounded by so much immense talent, and I appreciate every one of you for joining me. And
rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah, I love it. All right, take care, everybody.